Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk. I'm very excited to have my guest today, Colette Schnable, joining us, otherwise known as the Biohacking Mama. There is so much that I'm ready to unpack about this woman's life and journey and story. And so we're going to have a chat. So welcome her to the stage. Hello,
Hey.
Colette. Good
Hi.
morning.
Thank you for having me.
So before we started, we were just talking about a lot of people mispronounce your name. And I was going to say it's Schnable, and you said, no, it's Schnable. So we want to get it correct. And apparently it means beak.
Yes, it's like the beak of a bird.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a powerful tool on a bird, you know?
It's actually, what's funny is that my husband says is like my super sense is that my nose is like super heightened and I can like smell anything. I'm a very good wine taster.
Okay, great.
Yeah. If you need a
That's
buddy.
great. I'm an easy drunk. I mean, I don't always know. I can't say I have the most discriminate palate. Sometimes you're like, that's definitely a no for me. And other times I'm like, sure, that's fine.
Pour some more.
My mom has the what we call the Newland nose. Yeah, she can pick up anything from anywhere and can tell whatever smells. They're all on her radar. So I've gotten out of the habit of wearing cologne because like she's so sensitive to things like that. So it's just like, oh yeah, smells. Other people get to enjoy those.
Right? No, I don't wear anything either. I'm very sensitive to stuff. So
yeah, so no candles.
And I like, especially if it's not like real oils, like if it's like cheap, like those really set me off.
Yeah, synthetics are horrible.
Yeah, and even like when I was pregnant, it was so much worse. We were living in Vancouver, building a yacht up there, and they would always have like the restaurants would leave like kind of like the windows open, let air in, not like America where we use AC everywhere. The other countries like fresh air, and yeah, the buses would come by and like the city buses and the exhaust would come in and I would get so angry. Like I didn't want to eat my food. But my husband's like, oh my gosh, when is this crazy nose going to die down?
Yep. So when you, as a traveler with the nose that you have, where do you love to travel that your nose enjoys and where do you not because your nose doesn't?
Well, I am a nature lover at heart. So basically, no matter where I travel, I still try to always go find like a botanical garden or somewhere to really enjoy the landscape and reground myself, especially when I'm traveling.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, I love Europe. Europe is one of my favorite places to travel. I mean, they have such wonderful smooth foods on the streets. And they have like so many of the bakeries. Everything is like made fresh when you're in Europe. So their smells are everywhere. So I think cigarette smells are also everywhere.
Also, yep. Certain countries also have a lot of body odor.
Very true. Yes, that is very true.
Part of the olfactory sense.
Yeah, I lived a summer when my son was little. I was in the south of France for one summer, and I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And yes, got all the extra smells. I have 2 wonderful smell journeys on my pregnancies. How strange that this conversation is starting this way.
But this is life. That's what a conversation is. One of my things that I love about you is you have such a great sense of humor. And one of my favorite things about me is I love to laugh and I laugh till I cry. So, this is
I haven't wiped my eyes yet.
This is going to be a great relationship for both of us.
It's a great way to start the day, laughing.
It's so true. And we recently learned from one of the blood specialists that we were learning from, right? That laughing to the point of crying is actually really good for your blood. So my blood is off to a great start today. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, then my blood should always be clean because I always make myself cry.
And this is one of the free services that you're providing to your community on a regular basis.
Exactly. Yes. Come laugh with me.
That's real. That's a value add right there. Put that in your bio, healthier blood with Colette.
Yeah, I teach you how to cry laugh.
I actually really did say I told God years ago, I was like, I want to laugh. Like whoever I end up with, I want laughter to be at the core of that relationship because there are too many things you experience in life, but to be able to laugh together, the joy that it brings and physiologically the health it brings. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I want that.
I think that for myself as well, like over the years and through my personal growth journey, that feeling the freeness to be myself and to like just be normal, goofy, have really has grown a lot. So when I was younger, before I had kids, I traveled the world as a chief stewardess aboard mega yachts, where that's a you know you stand
Very
quiet.
prim and proper. Yeah.
Yes, and like you're doing like it's called like silver service, white glove service to people,
Yes.
working for some of the most wealthiest people in the world. And you're not supposed to be yourself. You're supposed to. And one of the people that I worked for, they would call us like the GQ crew. Like, talk about having to have, those limitations of what you feel like you're supposed to look like all the time, as well as like how you're supposed to act. And then always for me, my own experience as well was like, I wanted you always want to like be like that, be like those people, but then that wasn't who I really was inside. And so I've just realized, over the past couple of years through this self journey I've been on, that I really just fallen back in love with letting people see the real version of me and who I am. And you get what you see now.
I love it. No, you are fantastic. And if people don't tell you that enough, then you need to hear it. You are. And your humor is one of your strengths. It's a gift that you bring. Because especially in the culture that people find themselves surrounded by all the time, there's such a weight to it. People are burdened, they're heavy, things feel heavy, problems feel heavy, and any tool, and laughter is chief among them, to lighten somebody's load is needed and needed in large quantities. So yes, keep showing up in that way in the world powerfully without apology. And if you start to shrink back, I will call you out on it because I am an aggressive encourager.
I like that you said that, because I was talking to you, interviewed Nicole, you had her on here, and I'm like, you were like a beautiful storyteller. I am the cheerleader for everybody, I'm gonna bring positivity to it all.
It's needed. Yes. Have you ever seen the movie Straight Talk?
Mm-mm.
Okay, highly recommend it because one, she has a great sense of humor. It's Dolly Parton.
Okay.
She is a bit of an inspiration for me.
Okay.
She was a dance instructor who had a gift to connect with people. And then she went to the big city, get out of a bad relationship, and discovered that her connection to people was a powerful opportunity. And she stumbled in on accident into this talk show. She was a receptionist, went to get coffee, and the producers mistook her for the new host of this new show. So they put her on the air and she got on air and people loved her. And she was so authentically herself. She was weird and quirky and funny and so uncouth in some ways, but it was the refreshing authenticity that people loved and connected to. And I think you'll enjoy her journey. Plus, it's Dolly Parton, and how can you not love Dolly?
To be honest, I don't know if I've watched any Dolly Parton movies. I've watched every single Elvis movie. I've seen all the
Okay.
musicals, but I don't know if I've watched a Dolly Parton movie. So,
Well, it's a fave. Her soundtrack, she recorded all the songs. I love the opening song.
mhm.
Um, there's a lot in it. So because I knew I wanted to start my talk show, I ordered this because I loved the sincerity and the heart and the unexpected success, but that she was just always herself. And that was what people loved.
Love it. Okay, it's going on my list. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You just mentioned I was talking Dolly. You mentioned Elvis. I'm about to travel to Memphis and I want to visit Graceland. Have you done that?
I have not. I
Okay.
haven't been to Memphis. I haven't done enough time in Tennessee, so no,
Okay.
not yet. But
Okay.
yeah, I would
So
love.
back to your yacht travels. How long did you do that? I was a flight attendant for a brief period, so I knew we could relate to that
I
kind of experience.
for almost a decade. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I kind of like just fell into, I'll tell you like what happened. So my parents moved me to Minnesota the summer before my senior year of high school. And I was obviously did not like it. It was freezing
Yeah.
cold. I came from Louisiana.
Okay.
And so I lived there for about a year and a half. And I had a friend who was like, I'm going to move down to the Caribbean. We're just going to go for the season. We'll make lots of money, waiting tables, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So booked a ticket. Was going to be there for 3 months. Um, and I think I went with like for like enough for a month rent, as well. And I go down and move to St. Thomas. And I ended up staying for 2 years. And I was working at a yacht marina, bartending, and I met yacht captains. I met like the hot crew from all over the different world, from all over the world. Even like the people who own the yachts. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I had met a guy and he was like, you need to come to Fort Lauderdale and do this. And he like got me set up. And I came here May 4th, 2008. I got a job straight away. And I didn't realize that what you actually do on a yacht. I'm thinking, oh, I've been in the service industry since I'm 16. I'm gonna wait, serve them their drinks, their fancy wines. Nope. You start by scrubbing toilets, ironing underwear, like Q-tipping everything. Basically, it prepares you to be the best housewife in the world.
Okay. I
I
mean,
can get a stain out of anything.
great.
But and
A
so
useful skill.
yeah, right. So for like the first year and a half, I absolutely hated it. And I don't want to clean up after other people. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
some of the things that you clean up that's a whole nother topic from the interesting types of guests that come on a yacht. Um,
Okay.
and then they were like, "Oh, she's a people person. Let's get her up here." And so once I started moving up on deck, and meeting more people, and then I guess growing the ranks, climbing the ranks, I really started to love it a lot more. You traveling all over, doing basically chasing summers and warm weather. So the Caribbean in the
Yes.
times, done the Hamptons many times, the Mediterranean, Greece, Turkey, and had a lovely couple of boyfriends from around the world, so I got to travel different places with them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's probably why a lot of not the boyfriend part, but the travels are why people get into that industry. So if you're not taking advantage, you're missing out on what's available to you.
Well, and to be honest, I would, I look at, I mean, I had such a great time, and you work crazy hours for sometimes weeks on end without time off, and so then it's party hard when you get off. And I definitely, didn't take the time to enjoy the places as I would now as an adult, right? I was young and I just was like, you know,
Yep.
out at the clubs having
Yep.
a great time, or rosés
Yep.
on the beach all day. So,
Yep. Yeah.
but
Those are the only sites that a lot of people that age see.
yeah,
Yeah. You're not alone. I mean, the flight attendant industry is not all that different.
really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what your work-life balance was like. It doesn't sound like there was much. It's like you're on board until you're off.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the alcohol consumption in the flight attendant industry is high just because it's like the work-life balance is low. And so yeah, it's like where can I get a free drink? Or you've dealt with passengers all day, or your body doesn't know what time zone you're in. So it's just like it's surviving. I would not call it thriving.
Right.
When you
And
get to a point where you can control your schedule, then you have a little bit more choice in your experience. But starting out, no, it was horrible. That was honestly why I
yeah.
did not stick around.
Well, my husband, I mean, he's been in the industry for over 20 years. He's a yacht captain, and only last April was when he got like his first like rotational job where he's like 2 months on, 2 months off. So,
Yeah.
after I stopped doing it because we had our kids, I wouldn't see him sometimes for like 6 to 9 months. So that's why, like in the summers, if we could do it, I would go get an apartment in Europe. Or, when we were building the yacht in Vancouver, I went and lived up in Vancouver for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, especially if you maybe have a really close relationship with your family, or you have a family life. So mostly it's why mostly men stay in the industry for quite a long time. I don't really. There's a few women that I've stayed in, and there's some women captains that I know, but yes, that's how I met my husband, and I'm still kind of involved in the life, but never would I go back. I did go and help a friend one time when the world was shut down and we finally opened back up. The waters opened back up in Fort Lauderdale. My friend's like, "Oh, I need help for a weekend." Oh my gosh, I was sick the whole time. It was so embarrassing. they're like, "Colette, I think we got the rest of the weekend."
Sick because you hadn't been in the environment for so long?
I was seasick. I was so seasick. And we weren't even like out. We were like just like in the intercoastal waterways of Florida. I was like so embarrassed. They're like, "You did this job before?"
You're like, apparently I've been grounded a long time.
Yeah.
My body's like, feet on the ground, please.
Yeah.
But I'm the opposite. I can't imagine having been that nautical. I love heights. I love air travel. I love a view. When I travel to places, I am looking for the highest peak, the highest rooftop that I can go get, an overview of a city or a place or a terrain. So for me, I love the heights that come with air travel.
Okay, so that's so interesting that you say that, because I've been flying since the first as long as I could alone, like 6 years old back, when you're allowed to do that. And I was fine until probably like in my 20s, and I used to get like the worst anxiety, like people like praying over me on the airplanes because I'm hyperventilating, like freaking out.
Yeah.
And I'm so much better now, but I'm like that's why I feel much space safer on the ocean, where I'm not going to come crashing down. My dad's like, "Colette, that's not how it works. You're going to be safe. More people get hurt in car crashes."
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind the flying now, but I still, maybe white knuckle here and there. But I'm like,
Okay.
gotta be cool for the kids. Be cool for the kids.
Yeah. That's good too. Do you, as one who worked in the nautical industry, do movies about like sea creatures and all of that? Do you avoid them because you're on the ocean? Or do you like them because you're on the ocean? I don't love to plant fear seeds like that, so I don't gravitate to those films.
Oh, I definitely don't feel like the sea creatures, but like watching like some of the reenactments or true stories of that vessels that have gone missing and stuff like that. Yeah, that definitely. So the first transatlantic crossing that I did, we left Fort Lauderdale and we had 17-foot seas. I was like, are we going to make it? Like the green
Oh,
water's like coming up over the boat. And I would, if I wasn't on watch, because like you have to go up for 2 hours or some 2 to 4 hours, depending, to help whoever's driving the boat keep eyes out for whatever, a log, a whale, another boat. And so if I wasn't up there, I'm like down in, and I was sleeping in a guest cabin during the crossing because the crew sleep in the bow of the boat. So obviously, if the waves are that big, you're flying up to the ceiling and coming back down. So I'm
oh
like
my gosh.
laying on the beds, like, when is this going to be over? And then we're almost to Gibraltar. And that's the first like inlet you go to as you get to Europe. And it's no moon out at night. We couldn't see anything. And I get this like crazy vertigo. Like I feel like the boat is spinning. And like it couldn't like, and I was like sitting on the ground, like, and we had this relief captain on, this guy, and he's like, "This girl is crazy." He's like, "Colette, we're fine. Look at the compass. It's not moving." I go, "I don't think so. I think the boat's moving." I'm like, I couldn't wait for the sun to come up and I couldn't wait to get to land. But
Mm-mm,
yeah, so that's why I don't watch like those
mm-mm.
types of things. I typically don't watch anything that is going to raise my anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, you know. I
Yeah.
don't think that we need to be plain. I'm very visual. I don't need to give my body and mind those images to replay in a future
Mm,
scenario. So I don't do
no,
a lot of that.
like those Final Destinations, I've never watched those. No thanks.
Mm. Nope. I mean, we're such powerful, creative creatures that like what you start to picture and visualize, you empower and then can create. So no, I don't need that.
Nope, exactly.
I also don't need that level of nautical immersion. So thanks for doing that. I would take choppy air over what you just described on a ship any day.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I don't find turbulence in the air to be bothersome at all.
Well, maybe because you know how it all works.
Maybe, maybe. I don't know. I mean, do you do roller coasters at theme parks?
I used to, not anymore
Okay.
because of the anxiety that it creates in my body. I'm really sensitive now. And I think it's because I didn't know how sensitive I was before and how much of an empath I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with all the years that we've been doing this type of work, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's what was going on the whole
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a good amount of like indestructible fearlessness that comes with that growing up period that's needed too, like the youth in early tribal cultures were the ones who go out and, have to prove themselves to join the tribe or take on the ferocious whatevers. I mean, there was a fierceness that was needed in their being for what was asked of them too.
Yes. No, I agree with that. And, it's not I would still do some other, like, maybe more, like, adventure, fun, adrenaline rushing things.
Yeah, adrenaline. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word.
I
Yeah.
just don't need to be in big crowds anymore, like, it's a lot for me, like, and I do these conferences a lot,
Yeah.
so I have to really do a lot of, like, energy clearing either in the evening when I come back. If I don't take care of myself, sometimes I can get a little sick the few days afterwards. So I'm just conscious of these things now and, like, the settings I put myself in.
I like to run the bioenergetic defense programs when I know I'm going to be in spaces like that, or a lot of the hotels I stay in and travel. Like there are just a lot of things that are bombarding our bodies. And so when I know I have something that I can use to sort of protect my energy field, I will do some of that too.
Mhm.
Um, I don't mind crowded spaces though. There's something about being an introvert in a crowded space that I feel at home in. I mean, I
Yeah.
was in high school in Singapore, so I got used to sort of like cosmopolitan, metropolitan spaces. But when you're like a speaker in those spaces and everybody wants something from you, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about Singapore. Why were you in Singapore?
Company my dad worked for had us over there for 3 years. And so for me, that was freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school.
Mhm.
And it was pre-social media. So it was literally like cutting ourselves off from everyone and everything that we knew and starting over around the world. I mean, I was writing postcards when I first moved over there. That didn't persist super long because that's a lot. Um, but it was what I would call the best of times and worst of times. It was an incredible experience. I wish more people from any culture had a chance to live abroad
Yeah.
because and not just visit, but live, because there's a different mindset when you realize this is not a vacation. I'm not just going to be leaving in a week or two to return home. This is my normal, and this is now my home base. I think you engage differently, you show up differently, and I think it cultivates a different appreciation for your place in the world, for other cultures in the world. Um, we within the United States have such a massive land mass as our home that we don't understand the mindset of countries that are significantly smaller, who have an interdependence in their region that they can't get away from.
Yeah.
Yes, we are dependent on other cultures for shipping and things like that, but as citizens, we live so isolated and so insular. um, we just engage the world differently, which I think is why the world experiences Americans the way that they do, because of that insular mindset. But Singapore is the exact opposite. It is a tiny, tiny island nation and is a major international trade hub.
Mhm.
And there's a cosmopolitan business hub. So you get cultures from Western Europe, from European countries, from Asian countries. It's a huge melting pot. So it was a great way to experience so many different parts of the world in one place, because you get cuisine from all these places. Everybody speaking different languages around you, although English is their language of trade because everybody speaks English to each other.
Yeah.
It was a very safe place to live. As a 14, 15, 16-year-old, I was privy to things that I would question life choices of similar kids if I were to know, that they were doing those things today. Just because as an expat, you were presumed to be older than you actually were, because Asians look younger than we do, longer.
Yeah.
So people often thought we were older than we were. So 14-year-olds getting into clubs is not advisable. Sorry, mom and dad. But it was wonderful in the ability to travel and see the world that way. Like, as a swimmer, I didn't go to the next adjacent suburb community to compete. I traveled to another country. We were in an international school organization. So I got to visit Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, Taipei, Manila. There's one other I'm forgetting. Bangkok. Those were all the other international cities that we had other competitor schools at. So for choir exchanges, for sports exchanges, those were the places we would travel to. So
That is awesome.
yeah, as a teenager, that was a very, very rich experience.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah. So thankful that we didn't have social media, growing up.
It would not have gone well for me. I mean, I dealt with enough insecurities and teen problems without having comparison in my face on a device all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. No, totally. I think of, like, and you think that some of these people don't ever, like, go back and, like, get rid of the things that they have from when they were, like, 16 or
Yeah.
17 on there, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, imagine all the things that would be on there." I, like, go back to my Facebook, I'm like, "Oh, we gotta make this album private." Like, "What is this? I don't wanna get rid of the pictures, but I'm gonna make this private now."
Yeah, yeah. I have asked a friend of mine, I'm like, could you go through my socials and just, like, as an observer, tell me, what do you see? What should I what do I not know is out there?
What do you see that I do not see?
Yeah, I mean, because as the user of the socials, you only see one side, but the public, can sometimes find things that you forget are hidden, 10 years ago on your page.
Yes, no, I agree. And so one of the things that I've experienced, traveling and working with so many different nationalities, and this happens a lot within the yachting industry, is that they don't hire a lot of Americans. And because of the insurance policies, and that also because we sue
Oh,
people, that's what our reputation is.
yeah.
Um, and like I know, like my husband, for example, he can only have a certain amount of American crew on the boat. And that it also has hindered me from receiving positions as well in the past. And yeah, and even like, from traveling, I I guess I wouldn't say live because you said you were leaving. I lived in New Zealand for about 6 months. And yeah, just kind of like hearing some of what people think of Americans or like American girls. I was like, oh, that's not us. you know,
Mhm.
they just
It's
have
not all of us, but
not
it's
all of
enough
us.
of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but, and, it is just so different to see, when you're traveling, especially, I wonder what's the right word I'm trying to say. Just how in America we have all the things, right? Like we have access to all the things and everything is super easy, super simple. You could go to a Target around the corner or whatever. But even like at these like bigger stores that they have in other countries, it's still like where's this? It's like they don't have access to the things that we have. Like we have everything we could ever want here,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
not every country has that type of stuff. So that's really interesting, I think, to see the just and I guess I would call like wasteful things, unuseful things that we get sold to
Yeah.
here as Americans.
Well, and that sort of begins the transition too. Is like we have so much except health. I was having this
Mhm.
conversation with somebody the other day. It's like we have so much stuff,
Yeah.
but as a population, and these statistics are known, we have more pharmaceuticals, people are on more drugs and have a lower level of health, I think, in our country than many around the
Yeah.
world. So, I don't know that that's a trade I would want to continue to make, knowing what we know. I'll give
Mhm.
up stuff to have more health.
Yeah. So my I like always joke that that song in The Little Mermaid, like she sings like, "Look at her stuff, isn't this neat? All the things she
Yeah.
has." I feel like that's my house and my closets of all my traveling, I'm like, "But look at this, I got this here," all these
Hmm.
things, and I'm
Hmm.
trying so hard to get rid of, right? Because I do feel that it's also a lot energetically, like, in the house,
Sure.
and after our house flooded last year, now I'm like,
Oh
"Okay,
yeah.
we do have a lot of stuff," and it feels good to let go of, and to be more free and to be more minimalistic as well. What I'm trying to transition into is my journey
Yeah.
right now, more minimalistic. But I was driving the other day, and like I think my husband had like taken his phone out of Apple Play or whatever, so it switched on to radio stations, and so I typically only listen to the satellite. And I was driving, then I realized it was just a local station. I'm like, what is this? And it was because there's just ads for pharmaceuticals. And I was like, gross. And then a song came on, and literally almost every single commercial on the radio was for either a law attorney
Yeah.
for car accidents or
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals. And it's
Yeah.
just like push, push, push. I'm so
Well,
sick.
they say when you travel to new places, if you look at their commercials, you begin to notice what their priorities are, and so I don't remember who I was speaking to, but they were like, when you travel to, Japan, for example, I think they were saying you see a lot of products for like bleaching their skin,
Mhm.
and like, you begin to see what their cultural priorities are based on what's being constantly advertised to them. And as you pointed out, we're a very litigious society, and we're drug dependent, pharmaceutical dependent. That's not two pillars of a healthy culture.
No, no, it's not. Yeah. And I think that, just trying to help people see that light, to see that, there are other ways to communicate with your body, other ways to take control of your health. And like that's my biggest like passion. What I'm doing as Biohacking Mama is to really empower our children, our future generations, to stand up for their health choices, to know and understand how everything is working inside and how to communicate with your body the right way, and to not, live life with these on.
Mhm.
So, you can continue to make your choices yourself and not be told that this is the only way.
Was there something that happened for you that got your attention? I mean, because the travel bliss version of you doesn't sound like she was paying a whole lot of attention to her health choices. Was there something that happened either to you or around you that got your attention about like, oh, I should really begin to pay attention to health choices?
Yeah. So I actually miscarried my first pregnancy. And so when I got pregnant with my son, I was like, okay, let's just start getting healthy. And I started to learn about like nutrition and gut health. And I also decided I got this book about like hypnobirthing, which is, meditating a pain-free birth. And in this book, it actually talks to you and explains the actual processes that are happening in the body, how things are moving, how things are supposed to happen naturally. And I'm like, it made sense to me. And it just made sense that, oh, I can do this. And it was really empowering to visualize this. And so I had to get a new OB because my insurance had changed. So I go in to meet this doctor and I'm like, so I got this book. I'm going to practice hypnobirthing. I'm going to have a natural pain free birth. And she's like, yeah, people try that. That doesn't work. At that moment, I was like, this does not work for me. anymore. And from that moment, because this woman who was supposed to be my advocate, to be there and to support me and to bring my child to the world, set me off to find another way. And I found women who would support me and stand by me. And that really is what transitioned me into a more of a natural lifestyle. I did use a birth center, but I still had a natural water birth by the time I got down there, because it was like in Kendall, which is out of Miami. It's like about an hour and a bit. Um, she's like, "Oh, you're like 9 centimeters." And I was like, "What? I did it," like, and because it was pain free. I meditated the whole way through. And
What?
when she's like, "You got to get in the tub right now." And when she said that, it was like, yes, so I was so proud of myself.
Seriously.
And from that moment, I was like, no, I need to know how this works. I needed to understand what was happening within the children as they were growing. So I kind of like went in to understand their gut tracts, that the babies are actually born with like leaky gut. So when I was transitioning them into real food, before they had real food, after breast milk, they had bone broth was the first thing that they had, because that helps heal their gut. So just transitioning into all these things, and we're still, I still do different things with them to keep them in healthy mindsets, do the breathing practices with them. But yeah, I mean, that one woman was the pivotal point that I kind of said, all right, F
Wow.
you, Western society medicine. I'm
Right?
gonna I'm gonna do my own thing. And so like now my children, my son is 7 and my daughter's 5. They've never been on any antibiotics. I mean, they go to the doctor once a year for their school checkup. Otherwise, I do everything at home. I mean, unless like we are extremely, extremely sick. I mean, and it's rarely happened. Have had to go to the hospital. So
That's amazing.
yeah, thank you.
So then when did you become the biohacking mama? Obviously, I know that started your personal journey, but when did you start to become this leader and teacher really in this space?
Mm. Well, I dubbed my name that the weekend of Dave Asprey's biohacking convention last June, actually. And just I was like, because I was meeting all these new people, like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a mom and I biohack." And this guy I was with from Austin, he's like, "Colette, like that's your brand." He's like, "That's $1 million brand." And I was like, I felt it. I was like, "Yep. Yeah, it is."
Yes, it is.
And so I went home and I like got my LLC and like did all these things. And I and it's funny because in the space that we're in, there was, you gotta niche. You gotta niche down. And I hated that. I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Don't make me.
Yeah.
You can't put me in a
Don't
box.
clip my wings. Yeah. Mhm.
and so when I realized like, yes, this is it. And it allows me to be very broad.
Mhm.
I could talk about so much, right?
Yep.
And it's not only because, when people are like, Colette, you're the mom, do the mom thing. And I didn't want to do that, because showing up online and showing up for a community was me being something outside of being a mom. And so with this Biohacking Mama brand, I can, show up as a mom to support other moms and talk to families, but I also can talk to other biohackers about different ways to biohack,
Yep.
what I'm doing for myself and biohacking within itself. And I love that our friend, she's calling it bioharmonizing, because she says
Mhm.
biohacking is so masculine. And I'm like, oh, you're right, it
Yeah.
is. So bioharmonizing, which is a little more juicy at the
Mhm. Mhm.
um, it's all encompassing of your life. I
Yeah.
mean, when I got into this space, I was thinking the first Dave Asprey convention I went to, I was just going to see, big buff people, and all they want is all their supplements and the next fitness tech. No, man, they are tapped in. They are tapping in, because they realize that this has to be healthy for all of this to be healthy. And when you realize how to start having a better mindset, it actually opens more of those doors to realize that you need to tap into more conscious levels as well. And then you can start pulling in the things you desire and you deserve. And all of that takes place inside as well, because we are energetic beings, and you know this. And so the brand really is easy for me to talk about so much stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, it gives you a lot of freedom and space, and you
Mhm.
need that.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's why my brand, Time with David, and my show, Let's Talk, I mean, they're intentionally, because, my own life journey is like, the way I spend time with people looks different, but the one consistent thing is that it's time with me.
Mhm.
And for some people, they're getting a hug. For some people, we're laughing till we cry. But the quality of the time spent is time spent with me. I might be coaching you, I might be doing, counseling you, whatever. But it gives me the freedom to evolve as a
Mhm.
being, but be consistent there. I mean, I was so tapped into like physical touch as a healing modality. I was looking into being like a professional cuddlist at one point. They are a thing, apparently.
I met one last week.
Yeah. Yep. So, physical touch needs are going largely unmet, especially in the wake of a pandemic that was like, oh, don't get near another human.
Mhm.
And because I'm self-aware enough to know my physical touch needs, I actually was quarantined it with my family. We all, quarantined together in our bubble. And so when my anxiety levels got to such a point that, like, as a physical touch person, if you don't get touched, there is a tension that builds in your system that's only relieved when you do get that physical contact.
Mhm.
And so I would go into the other room and I would just say, Dad, I just need you to just like give me a hug. I just need you to like hug me and hold me for a little bit. Just feel all of that like melt off your body. But
Mhm.
in a lot of spaces, people who are physical touch people will sexualize touch, or culture wants to sexualize touch, and there needs to be spaces for safe, healthy touch. um I met a guy years ago. He was a coworker, and I gave him a hug at work one day, and he told me quite a bit later, significant period of time. So it was the first time that somebody had hugged me who didn't want sex from me.
Mhm.
And it's like there's a need for safe touch, to
Mhm.
be very healing for people. So I take that really seriously. And hearts need to feel safe,
Mhm.
and non-agenda contact. So anyway, yeah, back to brands.
Well, thanks for sure. No, it's funny. It's like my husband is Australian. His father moved to Australia from Scotland, and like he'd never hugged. They grew up shaking hands.
Yeah,
And my son is he's I think my son's very much empath. He is a very sensitive child, and he needs all of the touch, all the cuddles,
yeah,
and it's actually been a beautiful thing to see my husband become softened by that,
yeah,
and to be able to have that relationship with him that he didn't get to have with his father.
yep.
And now I see like him like, no, give me a hug, when like, because his father still lives in Oz. So when they do come, he's like, no, we're doing this now. So
Well, yeah. So within the male culture, touch is often only in like a sports context. You get like a slap on the butt, or you get a attaboy, or whatever, or a fist bump, or a high five. But like, I'm a very emotionally sensitive man,
Mhm.
and I grew up with a mom whose family was not physical touch people. So she cared and loved me deeply, but wasn't a big physical touch
Mhm.
mom. And then my dad wasn't safe for me growing up as a kid emotionally. So that even if I was getting physical touch, it didn't feel safe. I didn't feel emotionally, intimate. And so it wasn't till later that God brought men into my life who could give me like safe and not rushed physical contact, like an actual hug, not just like a slap or a pat or a whatever,
Mhm.
but like hug me
Yeah.
and mean it with the heart. I wept for years. God did so much healing in me, in my being, because knowing now what I know, I needed that and didn't have it. And deprivation of a need is a form of trauma, is a strong word, but it's a form of abuse and trauma that we internalize, but we don't realize.
Yeah.
Neglect of a need is still a mistreatment at minimum, and when you find safe people or other people in your life as you grow out of family of origin dynamics, you discover, oh, I actually really need this. Oh, I never got this. Oh, this feels really great. And I feel so much healthier. And that
Mhm.
was really significant period of time for me where a lot of healing came through a lot of just hugs.
I love that. I love
So
that.
I'm
Yeah.
glad your son's getting that early.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I also was very much what's the right word? I'm thinking codependent.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very codependent. I had a lot of abandonment growing up through one of my parents. And so it just made me feel like when I go home to visit my dad and mom, like I'm like there all the time. It's like, don't you want to go do something? I'm like, no, I want to be with you. It's like I've I've grown up a lot now, but it's like I always needed to be with people.
Yeah.
And it was because of so many years of not feeling that I was good enough for this other person, that, they never show up or whatever. But um, so yeah, that's been a journey within itself. When you realize those certain situations from childhood, brought up different characteristics in you as an adult, and
Hmm.
how to transition through those traumatic experiences, but then um, to see them as experiences for yourself that also the other person had. I realized the other person has their own issues going on, that it
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily you or wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily me,
Yeah.
right? So that's a big growing.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. Yeah. To detach your healing from blame and just recognize there's so much going on their side of the
Mhm.
experience that you're not privy to. Yeah.
Yeah, I hosted a biohacking conference in October, and my friend, he said to me, he goes, how did you feel being up on stage? And he like gave me a big hug. He's like, you did wonderful. How did you feel? And at that moment, I said, to be honest, I feel that the little girl with her hands on the window waiting and waiting, like, to me showing up is like saying that you are worth this and that I continue to push forward. My friends are like, Colette, what are you trying to do with this brand? What are you trying to be, like a big influencer? I'm like, I don't know, but I just know that I have to keep showing up. And I show up for myself every day as
Hmm.
well, because I'm deserving of that. And for so many years, I didn't think I was deserving. I didn't think that my voice needed to be heard, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that if, we keep showing up this way, that it sheds light for other people to be able to see that their voices should be heard and they deserve the light to be shown on them as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, when we have those abandonment wounds, we feel the need sometimes to have to prove something.
Mhm.
But as we heal and we learn, oh, I don't have to prove it. I do it now because I want to, and because I enjoy this. And it's sad because incredible gifts, like you're so gifted. And to imagine that you wouldn't show up in that space to use your voice and to be the leader that you are because of some lie that was planted early out of somebody else's wound, you
Mhm.
know, that got planted in you, and these cycles get perpetuated. Yeah, it's amazing that you are seeing that, but also living apart from it, living above it, getting healed from it,
Mhm.
um, because your gifts are needed. They're needed in the world, and to not have that would be a loss for all of us.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just hope that other people, realize that, I think that like what you and I are doing, I know that you still have your job that you are doing, but it's like to find freedom and being able to show up authentically, and if and for you, if that means that you need to go to do a 9 to 5 and that's where you feel you really thrive, then that's great.
Yep.
But I also want people to realize that, and moms too, that it's like you don't have to just only be the mom. You deserve to
Hmm.
be you too.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that that is an important piece of what I like to show up as well for people, outside of the nutrition and the health aspect of things, is letting them find that version again, and letting them be successful in whatever that means for their family. So that's another key piece that I like to hold space for people in as well.
Absolutely. And I think I I don't ascribe to a lot of traditional norms, relationship norms, expectations. I run from. Like, you want to know one of my key characteristics? Set an expectation. You can see how I show up.
Mhm.
Because I think that I just don't thrive there, and I don't think that that generally works well in relationships of any kind. But I think I would love to see our culture continue to evolve to a more community mindset around many things. One of the things you said earlier about like we as American families are so siloed. Like it's like I need to have my own all of these things, but maybe I only use some of those things like once a year. Why couldn't they be community things and that family community share
Mhm.
on a resource that they all aren't wasting money on it? But also in the terms of like raising children, I've never liked the idea that powerfully gifted women who have incredible leadership abilities or creative abilities or whatever might be in any way hamstringed from bringing that gift to the world because of bringing children into the world. But
Mhm.
we have people who genuinely love time with kids and they are phenomenally gifted at it. They're
Yeah.
great educators. They have endless patience for all of the stages. I'm like, I don't think I'm that person. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be allowed to have kids, nor does it mean I don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
Um, so I've never liked the idea that like somebody is saddled and burdened with having to do all of their things, and in the meantime, their gift is stifled or completely unexpressed.
Yeah.
There are better ways for us to operate as a humanity
Right.
than this model. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you're leading people into that. I'm glad that you're encouraging women into that. I've never been the guy who felt intimidated by women's greatness or success.
Mhm.
If anything, would prefer to be the cheerleader advocate. I'm like, no, I feel you don't take anything from me by you being great.
Mhm.
And so the chauvinist mindset that ever felt the need to like put women down, like I never understood or felt any inclination toward that.
Yeah. It's so it's so gross, and it's like I'm
It
very,
does.
very fortunate. My husband is very, very supportive, and, he's like, "I love watching." He's like, when I do put on the full outfit and it's not we were laughing about that earlier. He's like, "Oh, I like Boss Colette." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You go out there and you get it." He's like, and he sees, he's like, because he's always been so business forward and mindset driven, and I've always been you know and here I am, and then he's like, yes, he's like, it's your time, it's time for you now. And yeah, it's great support, and it's wonderful to hear that from you, and to see that with, and I feel that the world is starting to change, and we're
Yeah.
all pushing it and we're all encouraging it, right? And it's time for the hate and the, like you said, the chauvinist and all of that to step to the side.
Yeah. Yeah, co-creation.
Mhm.
I mean, long ago, before, I mean, people always talked about like a husband and a wife or whatever. I was like, no, I always use the word partner when talking
Mhm.
about my future mate because I want it to be an equal dynamic. My gifts will not be their gifts. This should always be something we're doing together.
Mhm.
And I don't feel the need to have to compete. I don't feel the need to have to ascribe to male norms. I'm not intimidated by somebody making more money than me. Their gifts will never be my gifts. So if they feel better about themselves because of their income, then we would never have been a match anyway.
Yeah.
It's just not
Mhm.
the way I engage life. Um, so where are you leading people right now as Biohacking Mama? How are you cultivating your community? You said you led a conference in October.
Mhm.
Is this the primary way that you are connecting with your community? Obviously, you're phenomenal in socials. If you're not following her, you need to find Colette and follow her. You're probably the Biohacking Mama on everything.
Colette.biohacking mama. Yeah.
Okay.
If someone had Biohacking Mama and they have like 3 posts, and I was like,
Uh, give it up. Whoever
yeah,
you are, give it
yeah.
up.
But my name is, I mean, not many people have my name. So, yeah, so that's, and there. And so, yeah, so I mean, like I said, I love community building, and so I
Yeah.
do a lot of local events. Like I'm speaking at and it's called Empower Her on Friday. It's Women's Month, so I do a lot of things locally in the South Florida area. But then coaching women online and helping them build successful affiliate portfolios through health and wellness is really where I strive at, outside of teaching them different biohacking modalities.
And you've really built a great community. I mean, that Miami event that you just hosted, the Liquid Light Miami event, like you pulled that together so quickly and you had such a great network of fellow biohackers who showed up, last minute quickly. And that's a testament to how people perceive you, the respect they have for you, their passion for you and what you are passionate about. They're willing to pay attention to and listen to, and that speaks volumes.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that was crazy to pull off in less than 5 days. Um,
Mhm.
but you're right, and it was a really beautiful community, and the community here in South Florida, it's growing, and it's a nice mix between the like professional biohackers, yogis, the tantric circle. It's a big we all like flow together. So there tends to be a nice group of us. But then, we get people that are coming away from Tampa, people up from Palm Beach down. Like I do a lot of my events in Miami. I'm trying to start trans moving up more up here because I live in Fort Lauderdale. I do have I'm putting on a full day women's biohacking event in May. So that's something, and for me, highlighting the other women is important. Um,
Mhm.
and there's a lot within this local space that has ancient healing practices, whether on holistic healing practices. And so I really want to allow these women to be able to show up and show themselves within the community, just like people allowed me to over the past couple of years.
I love that. You're already giving back. What so you've been biohacking, you said your son is 7, so that kind of started this journey for you.
Mhm.
What have been some of your biggest surprises in your biohacking journey? What have been some of your favorite
Mm.
biohacks? What biohacks are people being duped into that are really just a waste and people should just avoid?
Yeah. So for me, I try to keep things as simple as possible, right? I'm a busy mom, entrepreneur. So I like to just really work on the foundational pieces. And that's what I like to always start people on as well. And everything that I do is pretty much everything that my children can do. There's a few things that they can't do yet. So, the foundational piece I always start people with is with molecular hydrogen. And I think that because once our cells are fully hydrated, from there, you can then assess what you're needing within the body, whether that might be supplementation or speak to yourself through frequency therapies. And that within itself is a whole can of worms that people need to start educating themselves on, because it's I guess you would say it's not a fad, because this is the way forward with health, but right now it is
Mhm,
blowing up like
mhm,
fat, and people are seeing this everywhere. People can be duped into purchasing something that's cheap when really they're actually then causing more harm to their body by the grossness of the byproducts that are created when people choose to bring in molecular hydrogen. So we could go down a whole rabbit hole on
mhm,
that, and
mhm,
that.
mhm. Yep.
um and the water, our water supply is terrible. I had someone come and test my water, and we were just drinking from the fridge filter that goes through the fridge. And
Yep.
he tested everything, and it's still tested with the same amount of chlorine levels that should be in your pool. I was
Yeah.
like, that's gross.
Yeah.
And let alone all the other things that are in it. And so, really getting people to just start questioning is important for me to teach people. Like, question what's going in your body, question what is in your food, know how to start reading your food labels. So, water's the main thing, and molecular hydrogen is the key piece. I use Lume Vitae here. It's my favorite one.
Mhm.
And then I do a lot of free biohacking, so I'm fortunate enough to live by the beach. And when my husband's home, I get up early. I go walk the beach when the sun is rising, getting the beautiful, good red light in the morning to my skin. Then I'm grounding with the sand. And, if I choose to go in the ocean or at least just breathe in the ions, that's natural free biohacking.
Hmm.
Uh, when I'm home working on the computer all day long, I try to, in between some calls, I will just go walk around the backyard, ground myself for a little while, and also, just lay out again to get some recharging from the sun. I do frequency therapies, like I was telling you before, because that's the best way for me. Really, what actually got me into the biohacking world was speaking to my cells through frequency therapy. And I can do that with my children, and my children really love it. They ask for it if they don't feel well or if they're anxious. We do a lot of breath work. Breath work is free.
Yeah.
You can find all of that on YouTube. We actually have a really cool device someone just gave us. It looks like a sex toy when they handed it to me. I was like, "What is this?" But it's a silicone. It's called. Looks like a bird. Like it sits in your hand, but it expands and closes in when you are supposed to be breathing. And
Oh,
so it's a great practice tool for my children, so they can sit there and do their breathing in the morning and at night before bed. Other things that are extremely important is your gut health, right?
mm,
Making sure your gut is extremely healthy so that everything is working and computing better up here.
yep.
So that's something really important. And I'm also an advocate for plant medicine. So I believe in using magic mushrooms. I believe in using cannabis. And I think that that is something that people should educate themselves on if it's something that could benefit them for their mental health. I use psilocybin microdosing to, especially if I have big goals ahead of me. It helps my mental clarity extremely. It helps my creativity. Um, and if I need to get things done, that's what I'm using. It's not like I'm here like, yeah, that's for Saturdays.
I feel like you have enough of that natural energy anyway.
I do.
But I mean, yes, I mean, what I loved about what you said, I mean, I would have said I was a health aficionado. I wouldn't have called myself a biohacker. I did discover biohacking through a friend years ago, Anthony DiClementi. I don't know if that's a name that's on your
Sounds familiar.
biohacking radar. He was actually who connected me to Tyler LeBaron for hydrogen.
Wonderful.
When molecular hydrogen came across my radar and I knew of Anthony, I was like, hey, what do you know about molecular hydrogen? He was like, yeah, I know some things, but if you want to talk hydrogen, this is your man. And he's like the world's leading researcher. Um, but being in the modeling industry and just like caring for my vessel, it's like health was an important part of that. But I got to admit, I can't believe how long it's taken me to pay attention to water. Um, and I guess what I've experienced in my new journey with molecular hydrogen as well is my body wasn't craving it because what the water was that was available to me wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So I wasn't feeling the positive results. So it wasn't something my body continued to ask for.
Mhm.
Because anytime I had to be diligent about a detox or drinking X number of liters of water a day, I like had to set a timer for myself at like every 30 minutes drink. It was the
Yeah.
only way it ever happened. It was never something my body was like, I want more of this. It was like, okay, I got to do this. But yeah, my experience with molecular hydrogen has also awakened me to like exactly as you said, like what's actually in my water and why have I never installed a shower filter before now? Like
Mhm.
I was a swimmer for years growing up, so I was immersed in chlorine water for decades. Um, but it's benefited my skin putting a shower filter on and like
Wonderful.
hydrating my cells, my energy level. Now I don't start my day with like I used to start my day with a sugar-free pre-workout because I was like, oh, this is minerals and this is natural things. And it was, but it was also like a caffeine hit to start my day,
Yeah.
which wasn't great for my thyroid and my adrenal system. And then I'd hit caffeine again at lunch with a coffee. And now with this molecular hydrogen water, I don't need any of that. I don't start my day with anything. I still take my minerals, 90 essential minerals, but um, I don't need the caffeine hits. And actually, I drank coffee yesterday and I didn't like how it felt in my body. I was like so enjoying a natural energy
Mhm.
from being properly hydrated. that the agitated energy that came with the caffeine, I was like, oh, I don't enjoy this feeling.
Yeah.
So
No, I
it's
feel that.
really, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to continue to discover how good we can feel. I mean, my evolution with health was like, okay, let's do a full body detox and let's get on. I did alkaline water for like a really long time, which I didn't know was messing with my gut, but we're working on repairing and restoring that. But hydrogen helps with that too, because a healthy gut actually produces hydrogen, molecular hydrogen. So it's all working out. But um, yeah, it was. I remember I did my first full body detox. It was a 3-week cleanse from a man who actually lived in South Florida, cellular nutritionist. And it was like a homeopathic protocol of things to pull heavy metals out of my tissues. And like at the end of that 3 weeks, I was like, I never knew I could feel this good.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your body's burdened with toxicity and sluggishness and dependency on other things, when you can really r- pull all of that out and get to feeling really great, you're like, wow, I've been missing out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what's available to us as we really start to get our bodies unlocked and really clean and really optimized. Which is why I love biohacking. I think it's or bioharmonizing, because it's teaching people to tap into what's really our potential,
Yeah.
because our society's systems are not designed to help us optimize our performance capabilities. So now we've resorted to having to learn these tricks that we call biohacks,
Mm-hmm.
right? To figure out how to tap into the fullness of what our capabilities are.
I love so if people were like Google what is biohacking, or if you put it in like Chat GPT, it'll say like high functioning professionals from Silicon Valley. And it's like, well, because that's where it started, because they were high functioning and they had a lot of money and they needed to find and they had the resources to utilize all this high end tech to optimize their life. And I think that you know this, that all of the people that have their children from like Apple and Silicon Valley, their children don't have tablets and all of those things because they know what it does to them,
Yep.
right? And so now this is the point where we, as leaders within this type of community, need to go out and start teaching people that this is accessible to all of you. It's like you
Yep.
have to take control of your life and your health because they are not,
Yep.
you know. And I've actually I've had some people say to me on my platform that Colette, you are doing a disservice. You have such a beautiful following, and you sound um you don't sound credible when you are sharing X, Y, and Z posts, and they might be posts about you know choosing if you choose to or to not vaccinate your children or something like that, and it's literally only just sharing information that's out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, and my response to these people are, well, I have the following I have because people align with the views of health that I'm talking about. I'm not talking to the people of your statue or your patients because they're choosing that life. I'm trying to shed light that people can do alternative things to talk to their body and through health. And if
Yep.
they choose to do one way, that is their way.
Yep.
There's no judgment in any way, but this is
Right.
my platform and how I'm going to continue to show up. So if you don't like it, you don't need to follow me.
Right. Exactly. Is the power of the follow unfollow button.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
button
Yeah.
there.
So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're devolving as a society in terms of our ability to provide information and allow people to make informed, powerful choices. We want to
Mhm.
deprive people of information and force them into a choice, and that's not healthy for anybody.
Yeah.
Even in the biohacking space, it's like our own biochemistry, our own physiology is going to also determine which protocols might have whatever benefit or not in somebody's body. I know people who like they take caffeine and it calms them down. And other
Yeah.
people take caffeine and it wires them up. It's like you won't know that until you start paying attention to your physiology and your biology. And
Mhm.
maybe every choice that somebody else is making has the exact opposite effect for you. Great. You need to know those things and then be allowed to make those choices.
I think so too. And and coming to choices, it also comes to the choice of what it is you're choosing to invest for yourself. And so making conscious decisions, doing the due diligence to learn about the company. Like for me, any company that I choose to affiliate with or to tie to my brand, I need to either have a meeting with the CEO or the people running the company so I understand the vision and the mission, what that company is doing. I want to know I want to know like where their stuff is made, what is in this, what's in it, right? First of all, it has to align with what I'm going to put if it's something I'm putting in my body, it has to align with everything like that. And the beauty industry, this biohacking wellness industry, it is like wild, wild west. There is things popping up left and right. And if the big dog on top, Mr. Dave, says it's good, people buy it. When
Yep.
typically, I mean, he's getting the big bucks to
Yeah.
promote some of these things.
Yeah.
And I did his conference 4 years ago, and was there as an exhibitor. And now he has it that no affiliate or multi-level companies can come to his conferences. And I find that so interesting, because why should we not be giving the power back to the people who use these products? All the companies that are there do have affiliate opportunities, because people realize that is how people and companies are making money, by the word of mouth of all of us on social media.
Hmm.
And most of these companies, like some of them, like, I'm only getting like 10%. I mean, that's like dollars, and like I don't have millions and millions of followers, so I don't have that click response yet. It's coming.
Coming.
But but so it's like I have to find the things that are going to be giving me the best return as well. And so I just say this to anyone that's watching, that if you're choosing to, be building your brand and you're wanting to bring in some products, you don't know how to do it, look for certain things like that. Look at how is this going to benefit you and benefit your community? Because if you start to grow this community and you are affiliate with a company, and then someone else, oh, I want to affiliate with you. Well, that typically most companies, it just goes straight to the company. I'm not going to be benefited on if that person decides to affiliate with me. I
Mm.
need to only have customers coming in to be earning the 10% on, the NAD supplements or whatever that I'm promoting, right? So I also, as an entrepreneur and a woman in business, find companies that are going to be beneficial for me through legacy earnings and things like that as well. So that's important. I feel that when people are looking into this wellness, beauty game and bringing products on, those are things to look at, to be strategic in, and how to monetize yourself the best.
Hmm. Well, one of the things I appreciate about you that I've observed is like you do the homework. You do ask the questions, you look, you listen, you research, you study, you know what you're talking about when you open your mouth. And the wild west of biohacking, it's like it's easy for a new product to come on the market. I'm sure you're, because you live in that space far more deeply than I do, but it's easy for something to come out, make splashy claims, and people are like, well, they want those results, so they're willing to buy that thing. But it might just be what people are always concerned about: snake oil. They're selling a claim and it's not backed by anything. And so that's why I appreciate people like you in this space, who are doing the homework, asking the questions, meeting the people, because a lot of other people don't have the time to do all of that, but you're doing that work for them, so that when you open your mouth and you endorse something, they know they have the backing of the credibility checks that you do and the reasons you would choose a product and recommend a product. That's why it's important for people to find someone whose voice they trust, because
Yeah.
that carries weight and it does sift through a lot of the noise.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's wonderful that you're in this space, and more people need to find people like you.
Oh, thank you.
Hmm.
And another thing that I love about the space is that you don't have to know everything, right? That because it's such a big space, that there's so much, like I'm this thing I'm speaking at on Friday. She gave me, he's like, oh yeah, it's a 2-hour panel. I'm like, 2 hours. I'm like, what? Like, what are you gonna ask me? I'm like, I'm like, this is what I can speak on, you know? And so, but the thing about the biohacking space is that there are so many beautiful experts in so much of it. And it really is a shared education space. Yeah, you pay to go to some of these conferences, but I mean, it's when you can get yourself to a conference or any live event that is, whether it's biohacking or something specific to just to one thing, you should go, because it's not only to learn about the science, it's to commune, to meet the community that's involved in it, to expand your own self, to allow you to network. It helps your own personal growth. And so there's so much that comes from live events to get yourself into those. And I think that that's a great way to go. I'd like half the time I'll go to these conventions and I'm like, oh, I only sat 2 talks. I'm like 3 days. What did I do? I'm just there getting self work done on me,
Oh,
but
really? I've
yeah,
never been. Okay.
Austin in May, remember your birthday.
Okay. Yep. Austin in May. All right. What
Hack your health.
will you be there speaking?
No, I'm just a media partner for them for this one. So, I mean, and it's more fun. I mean, speaking is fine if it's just like one day, because then you can still do all the networking. But I don't think I'll ever exhibit again, because I like to be on the floor. I like to be on the floor walking and networking and doing all the fun things anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And capturing the stories. I mean, you are really so great on social media. You're so fun to watch. You put out really impactful content, but also levity and humor are able to be in there too. But like, you put together impactful reels and educational things. Um, I imagine that your social media skill game has ramped up. I mean, because I discovered you through frequency therapy.
mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were newer to creating social media content at that point, right? Or
Mm,
no?
I mean, it was still kind of like lost. I was lost.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember the first time I went live on Facebook. My son was a baby, and I remember sitting in his nursery, like holding my phone, like, okay, you're gonna do this. Okay, not yet. Like going back through your head of what you're gonna talk about. But I had a mentor. And her and I would just do like what you and I are doing, and she would ask me some questions. And so, like, have working with someone in the space to help you gain your confidence, help you just become comfortable talking.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important to find a person that's going to be able to hold that space for you, and be able to help coach you and to let you feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And and I didn't know the wellness things that she was talking about, but I was able to ask her and she was able to answer. And so I like to hold that space for people. um I don't know why I just went on that tangent. I forget what we were talking about.
Well, I discovered you through the
Oh.
frequency space,
Mhm.
and just I've seen your prowess for social media grow.
Yes, and I love to be funny and goofy. And like for a while, you're like trying to like jump on all the trends and all of that and like do the funny things. Like I never got into like the dancing. Maybe I did like one or two dancing, but and so now, I mean, like I feel like the social media is constantly changing all the time, and I just try to stay true to myself and just show up organically. And if I don't feel in the flow that day, like I don't necessarily batch content. Every once in a while, I might batch content if I got a good hair day, but it's a lot of the times it's on the go and on the fly of how I
Mhm.
feel that day.
Yeah, but I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
And it goes through stages for me. I used to be on a lot, and I used to document all of my travels all the time. I was like documenting like leaving the house and packing the suitcase and like going to the airport and here, takeoffs and landings. And now it's like I go sometimes whole trips and don't post anything.
Yeah.
I
No,
just,
because I feel it also brings us back into the reality of where we are, connecting with the people one on one.
mhm,
It's like when we did our thing in Miami, it's like I didn't
mhm,
take that much. It was like I really needed to be there and to be with you and to be with the other people that came to see us.
yep,
And same like when I just did another biohacking conference that I spoke at, and I didn't really do that much. I'm to the point now, I'm like, okay, I think I need to invest in someone to follow me around when I go to these things. um
I get that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's so it's like kind of like this next trajectory goal of this year. of how to keep the evolution going, and to keep showing up for people.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in almost any photo from the Miami event. I just was like that. I don't need to pose or I'm not here to necessarily have photos taken. I was glad to be present and it was a great event. But
Yeah.
there are different times and spaces for that. But actually, I'm glad you brought up goals because I wanted to know what goals do you have for yourself, for your brand, for your company, for where you want to lead your community.
Yes.
What are you vision casting?
Well, my big goal right now is this a women's event, putting it on with two other local women biohackers here. So that's a short term goal. That's in May. So that's what I'm focusing on. Really developing my brand and some courses this year as well for people, like where to start with the biohacking as mom, where to start with your children in the biohacking space. Those are some big goals, but then also continuing to help launch this beautiful company and spread, this message of communicating to your body just through water.
Yeah.
That's it's a big part of my time right now, and I'm deeply passionate about it
Yep.
because there's so much science to support what we're doing here.
Yep.
And as an entrepreneur, seeing what it can do, from the very beginning is pretty awesome. And
No, I wholeheartedly agree. And you have the gold and I use the gray.
Yeah.
Cheers. um, I agree. And I love that I get to be in partnership with people like you and to create what we're building. I love that you are a leader in this space. I truly love your humor and it's needed, So I'm really grateful that you are at the forefront of all of this with us, or that I'm here with you. I think you're leading even more than I am. But it's a great community. It's a great collection of really wonderful people around a really humble and genius man who has incredible things to offer humanity. And so I'm grateful that my health is benefiting, but it's also amazing that all these other qualities are present, as you've mentioned, legacy earnings. But the whole story just is so beautiful and divinely orchestrated. And it's a journey I'm grateful to be part of and grateful to be on with you.
I appreciate everything that you're saying. And I mean, just think about how much we have just retained and learned in less than 6 months.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Like, fill her up.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's wild. It's wild to think that there's been this much powerful information available that could transform health and lives. I mean, I had a great meeting yesterday with a guy, day before yesterday, with a man who owns a clinic and focuses on stem cells therapy, and so I would say maybe that's a biohack, but
yeah,
very invested in helping people restore vitality that they've lost in their health and body. And I had introduced this molecular hydrogen to him, and he was like, I'm interested, send me information. Left it at that. Sent him information, followed up. He and I know each other well enough that there's a rapport that I was like, hey, I'm in town for a couple of weeks. I'm happy to come by and see you, help in any way that I can. And then I'm going to be gone for a long stretch. And he travels similarly. And just birds chirping, no crickets chirping, nothing. And then yet Sunday shot me a message, hey, can you come by my office? And he told me, he said, I was spending some time with God the other day, and I'm always looking for what are the right combinations of things to really help my patients see the results they're looking for. And he said, Holy Spirit dropped on me water. Water was a piece that I was missing. So then he reached back out to me and was like, hey, we need to do this. This is something that my patients need. And so it's like being in the right place at the right time on something that God's doing that is so, as you said earlier, so foundational for every person's health. Mm-hmm. Every glass of water that they drink can be providing therapy to their body, can be healing things they don't even know need help. And also future-proofing themselves against other things. I attended a conference where speakers left sick, volunteers left sick, attendees left sick. The only 3 of us who didn't leave sick were the 3 of us who were drinking from our Cell Power bottle for that conference. And I'm like, that's not even something that you could anticipate or predict. So it's like there are things that you might know need repair, but there are also things that you don't know that you're going to avoid by giving yourself something very simple as foundational, healthy molecular hydrogen rich water.
You know, within like the biohacking space, people are always like, well, how long do you want to live till? Like, I don't know how long I want to live, but I want to be thriving the whole
Yeah,
way. Like, I
for sure.
definitely don't want to be 80 sitting and waiting,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
want to feel good like the whole way, until the end. And, even like something as simple as this water. And you and I have both experienced this, that people who you would have thought that would be interested in this have such a pivotal like experience after one glass. So like even like my mother, she was having an episode, and something with her rheumatoid arthritis was flaring up, some anxiety. And I'm like, please, we have a sip of this? Which comes to find out that anxiety actually is enhanced through inflammation. And molecular hydrogen is so great for inflammation, for those of you who don't know.
Yep.
And so my mom is like, Mom, please, will you just try this water? My parents have never wanted to do any of my holistic woo-woo biohacking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Drank it, and she came downstairs 10 minutes later, and she's like, I don't know what was in that voodoo water, but I have never had anything settle me so fast.
Hey, that's huge.
And now both my parents, they're drinking it multiple times a day, and it's all I can hope for is that it's going to just help them, alleviate things that, whatever is going on in their body, right?
Yes.
We don't have to know. It knows.
Yep. Correct. And for those who are new to that, there's so much information available that we can provide to you.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out to Colette directly. You can reach out to me directly. We've got myriad resources that can help provide insight into what we're talking about, how it works, how you can get it in your life. So don't worry. We have the things.
All of the things.
we have a wealth of information available at our fingertips. Well, I know you are a busy biohacking mama, but I'm really grateful that we've had a chance to just connect. I love who you are and how you are in the world, and just wanted to hear more of your story. I knew we had some travel similarities and also appreciation for health and wellness. I was like, yeah, this will just be a fun conversation to have. And
it was a super fun conversation to have.
I feel like that's going to be effortless for us all the time. So, maybe there's some co-hosting in our future.
I think so. Maybe June.
We all need more laughter. Okay. So tell people which social channels you're on. We know you're Colette Biohacking Mama.
Colette.biohacking mama on Instagram. Okay. That's where I'm most active, everybody. I just shoot things from there to Facebook, so you don't need to follow me on Facebook. I also have a website, www.biohackingmama.com, that they can connect through there. They can get on my mailing list here whenever I'm doing local events, or if I'm traveling to do events. I'm always open as well. If anyone wants me to come out and travel, I'm always down.
Yes. Amazing. So maybe I'll be seeing you in Austin in May. I'll be seeing you in Miami in June. I'll be seeing you in Portugal in September.
Yeah.
So lots of great things in our future.
I'm so excited.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for men and women, because I follow you. It's not just women.
Yes.
And I look forward to connecting with you more in the future.
Thank you, David. Have a great day.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned. Keep following. Keep sharing. Her story's great. Her content's amazing. We appreciate you for being here, and hope you guys, wherever you are, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.